Welcome back to the Tim and Steve Show. I am Tim Beard.
I'm Steve Morris.
Chief Wilmot in the house. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Not bad.
The studio above the garage.
Studio above the garage. We don't have a cool green screen for you. Next week, I'm gonna shoot for this. So I bought a green screen, just wasn't big enough. I wasn't thinking about, I guess, future things. I was like, oh, it'll fit behind me and Steve. Because now we can put whatever we want for background, which is kind of cool. Makes the show more interesting.
What have you used so far?
Yesterday we used it's kind of like a picture of the White Mountains, but it was like a sunset kind of thing. But then Andrew's like, it's like the colors are on the leaves. So she's like, you gotta have like a spring one. I was like, well, I didn't even notice that. So today I put like an American flag kind of thing and those kind of things. So, but we put whatever.
Where do you find the backgrounds?
So any background, you could send me a picture and I could put it as a background. So basically the computer program will just take the green out and I can put in anything. So we could be sitting in the back of your cruiser if you had a good picture of a cruiser, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
So we could actually do that when Chief's here. We could have like a picture of the PD or something. I don't know, something cool.
We should. Well, so in the early days of Zoom, when the backgrounds became more popular, there was a background, so it looked like you were sitting in the cockpit of an F-18.
That would be cool.
Right?
Have you seen the new Top Gun?
I have.
Is it as good as everybody's saying?
Magical.
That's what I've heard. It's old school.
Unbelievable.
Love America.
Sorry about that. Yeah, unbelievable. I'm not a huge sequel fan. I think that sequels generally miss the mark. But 36 years later, home run.
36 years.
Yeah, came out in '86.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I feel like it was shot 3 years ago because I remember they advertised for it a couple.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out during COVID, like that, right early on in COVID, and it just kept getting delayed. It's amazing.
The only thing I think about when I hear that is how did he maintain an 06 rank for so long? Because I thought it was
no, he was a lieutenant, so he was an 03 in the first one.
Well, he's a captain, right?
He's a captain now, right? Yeah. That's part of the joke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think you could stay as an 06 for a while. You don't get run out as an 06, do you? I think once you make 04 or 05.
05 you do. You have to get out. But I think if I wouldn't have gotten promoted or whatever, because you always calculate these things
right
when your peer group and everybody talks about it. I think I was 48 years old.
So he was an 06.
Yep.
If he went to an 07, that'd make him James Bond.
007.
That would make him an admiral.
A rear admiral.
Rear admiral.
And then
the Navy ranks are tough. I don't know what the ranks are for admirals.
That's right, because he was in the
Rear
Navy.
Admiral, Vice Admiral.
It's weird because Top Gun, you think Air Force, right?
Admiral.
But it's not. There's actually
Navy.
Navy. Right?
Yeah.
Navy's got the ships and yeah.
Right. Air Force pilots don't land on boats.
Ah.
They land on the ground. Navy Marine pilots land on boats.
It's mad skills to land on a freaking carrier in the ocean.
My grandfather was on a carrier in World War II out in the Pacific.
That's cool.
Dude,
USS Takenos Bay.
you got to watch it.
I'm going to. It's on my list of things. I don't know if I want to go.
We'll go to the movie, Steve.
Is it not on any of the? It's all at the movie. It's only at the movie.
Right.
It could be like a double date night. You can bring your wife. I'll bring mine.
Yeah, so my friend and I went. My wife bought us T-shirts. It said Top Gun volleyball serving team. So they were different shades of gray, but yeah, it was.
Of course, the Chiefs built like you go play volleyball on the beach. Me and you. Not so much.
I mean, you got a tank top on. You're almost there.
Everybody's got a
you might
tank
as well
top
just
on.
go shirtless if you're going to go tank top.
We were trying to add viewers, not lose viewers.
It's awesome.
How's your hands doing?
My hands? Oh,
yes. Remember? They look better.
Yeah.
So Monday.
Man work.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell that whole story.
I will not tell that whole story.
Yeah, but yeah.
I'm smart enough to keep some of that story out.
So yeah, I was splitting wood with a splitting maul like a man, probably like you guys did in Texas, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you just use
A maul.
Yeah, a sledgehammer, and you
Yeah.
got a rail.
You just go out there,
nail
and you get it done.
Start splitting it.
That's
I
right.
noticed something like you two, your personalities are so similar because like he's like, I would split like a man, and I'd be like, all right, he's a wood splitter. because I don't give a crap.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah,
the
I'm
other
like,
day.
why didn't you use a wood splitter? I'm like, dude, I got one. I'll bring. Like, I would have brought it to your house if you had a bunch of wood to split.
I
Like,
chopped
that's
down a
not fun.
tree over there with an axe. That
Right.
took forever. And my
Because
hands
you
were-
are a
man.
thank you.
How did? But okay, then I came in with a chainsaw and cut the
It
tree
took
up
you
in
like
one.
2 seconds.
And you're like, that's awesome.
But dude, you're retired.
Yeah, I got
So,
nothing better to do.
you got
But
you got
that's
nothing
my
but time,
exercise,
right?
Yeah. And my football was old.
That's the
school.
thing. Like that's the thing about people that are actually handy, that can fix things, and that they have skills. Like you don't want to mess around, bucking up a tree with an axe. You're like, oh no, I have 15 saws, all different bar lengths. They're all sharpened. That I do at my you have every tool that you could possibly ever need, and like you come in and you make a repair and it goes quick and without a problem. I have no tools. I have no skills. I try to fix something and I break everything
More stuff.
worse.
It's exactly what I do.
That's why I pay people now to do it, because I need to pay a real man to come in and fix my house. And
And then, when I retired, the most embarrassing thing is when you have to call someone on something that you're like, I've watched a YouTube video. I could probably do this if I had the right tools, but
Yeah.
the tools are expensive and everything. Then, I like it when Nikki's home because then she can talk to them. And I can go hide out in the woods and chop a tree down with an axe while they're actually doing man type stuff. around
yeah,
the
so
house.
this is what. No, I see. I like doing that when I'm still working, because I'm like, oh, hey, I don't have time to get around
Right,
to
yeah.
this. Yeah.
So you got a perfect reason for
Yeah,
it.
but like you could say something like, "Oh, hey, I got to put this split rail fence up in the garden," or I'm golfing, or I've got to go to the shooting league, or I don't know if you know this, but I'm in mass media now, so I've got interviews that I've got to conduct, and I just don't have time to make that repair. So
It's
Ever since we started doing this, mass media, his definitions changed drastically.
right, you guys are now a part of the media, the woke media.
No, we are definitely not that.
it's only a matter of time before Tim gets us banned with one of his hot takes.
I got hacked today.
Did you?
My Facebook got hacked by a bot. So I got a bunch of messages from people that said, "Hey, like this seems weird." As apparently, I asked a bunch of people this morning on Messenger, "How are you?"
Oh, I've had that happen. Like,
Not that I
some of
don't,
it,
because
yeah.
I am a sensitive humanitarian and I do care how people
Right.
are, but I didn't send a series of messages out. So
Yeah, and then you have a conversation, and you're like, "Oh, I'm talking to Brent," and that has your profile picture, everything. Like you think it's that person. I'm like, I know this person doesn't talk this way. Like happened to Andrew's aunt. I'm like,
So what are they looking at the end of the day? Are they looking to like
I don't
obtain
know.
information from you and then hack you?
I don't know. Like it's
Microsoft lets me know every day I have about 4 attempts on my old Hotmail account. Like all over the world. It'll tell you if you have a Outlook or Hotmail or MSN account. You can go in there and look, and then it'll tell you whatever unusual activity, and you can see what countries are trying to hack into.
Steve, your AOL IM has been hacked.
Basically.
Did you ever use IM? You must have, right?
Yeah, in the 90s.
No, early 2000s.
No,
AOL?
Isn't that with like the green screen, and that's how you talk to people?
AOL IM?
I don't know. I never used AOL, but I had like instant messaging where it was like a little green box that would come up and you could talk to people.
Yeah, it was such a time suck. Because it was right when I first got into college, AOL Online was like Instant Messenger was a big, huge thing. And man, I could get lost like right in that rabbit hole. You know how you can do that now with, YouTube, or I don't have, what's the one with the dancing videos?
TikTok.
TikTok. I don't have TikTok. But
No
I
one
wanted-
should have TikTok.
Yeah, but apparently TikTok, you can go into a rabbit hole and you can get lost there for hours and hours and hours. But that's how it used to be with Instant Messenger.
Yeah.
It was so novel, you know what I mean? Like you could have conversations with people that,
Right.
like right at your fingertips. We do that now on text messaging, but back then that was a new thing.
Yeah, we used to do it. I remember waiting for an email. Like my mom would send me a picture, and it would be like 5-10 minutes as it slowly.
Yeah, you'd have to hit, like send and receive a bunch of times.
you kidding? Your internet used to. Well, my internet's still that slow.
Where we're at nowadays.
Yours is better now, but yeah.
Starlink.
Starlink.
He's got the Starlink.
How many satellites are there? Do you know?
Oh, there's quite a few.
And they're like in low orbit or something.
And they're all that way because my satellite dish up there, I don't know if you can see it from the window. You see it?
I
over
can.
there? So it's always facing to the north. So
Do you see the satellites ever? Clear night?
Zeta was over at Tim's house a couple of years ago, and your neighbors actually saw them going over. There was a series of 6 of them. Did you ever see that picture?
No.
She sent it to me.
You, Chief, you believe in UFOs?
Oh boy. I don't know.
Sorry, I just want to, like, this thing happened Sunday night, okay? There was alcohol involved. However, the person next to me,
I thought you didn't drink.
I don't usually drink.
I
Occasionally
left
drink.
whenever Andrea brought out the
Fireball.
Yeah, Fireball,
yeah.
whatever it was. I had one and left.
So, anyways, we're
I
looking
can
up.
dance that song, by the way.
Fireball?
Let's come over tonight.
Yeah, remember?
Zeta's got the CD.
We don't have
CD?
players.
Well, my
we
Jeep
have
out
players.
there is older, so it has a CD player.
Oh.
So, I was looking
So I have
at
like Beastie Boys. I mean, actually, I have all my old CDs from the 90s. But she doesn't ever use those, so she bought a
Pitbull CD.
Pitbull CD.
I've seen him twice in concert. Anyway.
Have you really?
Yeah.
I've
That's
seen
pretty cool.
Vanilla Ice twice in concert.
That's pretty cool. I'm impressed with you guys. So I look up in the sky and I'm like, huh, it's not a plane. Planes, the light flashes. Satellites are more rapidly moving. I've seen satellites many times. They just kind of go through the sky. This thing's going like slow. So I take a picture and I take a little video, but I have an Apple phone, and I don't know if you have an Apple phone, but
I do.
the camera on an Apple phone is like 1912 technology. It's crap. Where like Samsung or whatever has like, good phone, But anyways, so the pictures are useless. But then all of a sudden it's like there, and I look and it's gone. I'm like, buddy's like, Bull's like, dude, where'd it go? Like it just disappeared. I was like, that's nuts. Like this doesn't normally happen, like. And I think there's like been more things people see that. And a UFO is just an unidentified flying object. I mean, it doesn't mean it was a freaking alien,
Right.
but it wasn't a conventional, plane or anything like that. I just thought it was interesting. I was like, holy crap.
Do you have the airplane tracker app?
No.
It's pretty cool. You can. Do you have it?
No, but I know.
Yeah. It's pretty neat. You can download it, and like if you see a plane flying overhead, you can open up the app and it will tell you like where the plane landed, where it took off from, where it's headed. It's kind of cool. Like it'll tell you its airspeed, its elevation. The only ones it doesn't tell you are military aircraft. So like you won't even see them on the tracker. It's I mean whatever. It is what it
It's
is.
a way to rule out unidentified flying object. I was telling him, he told the story the other day, and I saw something one night, and it was moving pretty fast, and then it went off that way, and I had gotten Nikki when I saw it moving this way, because it didn't look like a satellite, it didn't look like a plane, so I went in and I got Nikki, and then she saw it when it took like a 90-degree turn, and she got mad at me. She was like, why would you... She's like, I can't think about those kinds of things. Like, my brain doesn't want to even try to figure out and calculate what I just saw right now. So I've seen something similar.
Yeah.
In the sky.
That's pretty cool. My friend was telling me she saw like these lights. I've seen it all over the world really since like mid-90s to now. Like these series of lights that'll be in the sky that just move weird. And it's like, it's not a plane. And she saw something like that. I was like, well, no, that's totally like, I've seen... Like I watched the show Ancient Aliens on History Channel.
Yep.
Because I'm open-minded to that, and I think that I just love the information. First of all, there's a lot of history, which I love, like Egyptian history and whatever. Andrea thinks it's crazy. She's like, doesn't believe in any of that, so I have to watch it when she's not around or whatever. But I was like, no, literally the night before I talked to my friend, I was like, I just watched an episode about this. Like it shows these
I like
different
the
things.
South Park episode where they make fun of the History Channel. Did you ever see that?
No.
So
That'd be funny.
they're talking about Thanksgiving, and then they're like, but what if there were aliens there? And then all of a sudden they show like a traditional Thanksgiving with the Pilgrims and the Indians or Native Americans eating. And then there's like an alien behind them. And then it turns out that the Pilgrims are actually in search of, I don't know, stuffing. There's like a stuffing shortage across the galaxy. I don't know, it's pretty crazy, but they're just making fun of the History Channel. Went from, biographies and traditional history to aliens. I like.
I do
South Park,
think,
so I like
from a
making fun of it.
to answer your question, I do think our universe is just so mammoth and large and scale that like we can't even comprehend how large it is.
Right.
And so the idea that we would be the only living things in that universe, I think, is preposterous.
Yeah.
To think that. We might be the smartest. I mean, I hope we are. You know what I mean? But like that somebody hasn't mastered, traveling at the speed of light or something like that. So that they, who knows? You know what I mean? I remain open-minded.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. So
It would be cool if we could have like Alf, because he was.
yeah,
I thought Alf was
You'd eat all the cats.
Gordon Shumway. Yeah. What color was his fur?
Brown.
Burnt sienna.
Can you imagine right now?
You like the two? It was the 2 seasons it was on.
Was it only 2 seasons?
It wasn't on very long.
It is on Hulu.
Can you imagine right now? Alien spaceship comes down. Martian dude gets out. It's like, take me to your leader,
Marvin.
Marvin. Can you
Marvin
imagine?
the Martian.
Can you imagine how pissed off Marvin the Martian would be if we brought him to our leader, Joe Biden?
Yeah, who knows, man? Who knows?
He's like,
who knows what their
he's one of us.
political ideology is, you know? And
I wouldn't even think of the political part. I just not knowing where he is part.
You can give him some ice cream.
I like ice cream though.
Sorry, Chief.
No, you're all good, man. We're just
this angle we're at today.
Yeah, you changed it up.
I
man.
know.
You screwed up my OODA loop.
Well, because we're trying to get
Sit
like
back up
you know.
straight here.
Are you familiar with the OODA loop?
Yes, that's how everything is. You just go in a constant circle of.
Observe, orient, decide, and act. John Boyd.
You just keep going.
Yeah, we gotta do the show next time.
And interrupting your OODA loop is
Yeah, we just
the
did.
key.
Beach chairs, green screen, make it look like we're doing this on the beach.
Psychologically get to being on the beach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could have like we'll put a little fan in, get like wind coming through.
We can turn on the air conditioner.
That's true.
You could spray a little like misting spray on our face so it looks like we're sweating a little bit.
This would be more appropriate attire for the beach.
Yeah, you throw me off. Some days you put a collared shirt on. Some days
Yeah, I
you wear
know.
a tank top.
Well, I was trying to like dress a little more like that, but then I just don't care because it's too hot and I don't. Yeah, whatever.
I think
It's not that hot.
No, I just don't like. Yeah.
that's nice out right now.
Yeah. Well, you also don't have any extra weight on you. You know, it makes a difference.
Well, yeah, but I'm wearing this stupid thing.
That's true. So we talked a little bit about this last week, and I said I was going to mention it to you again because I just have, I have questions that you can't answer. But anyways, so
We can
could speculate, but
pontificate.
You can pontificate as a professional, and I'll just make
Ask
stuff
your
up.
questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because as part of the mass media, you have to ask the hard-hitting questions.
That's very insulting to us.
And as a burgeoning politician, I have to be able to duck and weave and not answer anything.
That's
I
Hedge.
think my brother said you should run for office.
The fact that you said
You
that,
got
I'm not
robbed
as
of it.
offended now. The fact that you're burgeoning
Politician.
burgeoning
Yeah.
politician.
Yeah, and I just have to
Good
learn
word.
I have to learn how to hedge and equivocate and
Because I would never insult you by calling you a politician. So, I mean, I guess it's about the same, right?
That was an insult. I got you.
sorry.
No, it's cool. So, Texas shooting.
Yep.
Obviously, we've talked about it a lot on the show.
Yeah.
Horrible tragedy. I mean, we hit it obviously from a different angle, like the whole gun rights thing and whatever. But, so the stories come out now. It seems pretty confirmed that, like, the police didn't go in for, like, 40 minutes.
Yep.
And we kind of talked last year, like, after Parkland, the policy changed where you just go in. And I know, like, I was a firefighter for, like, 11 years, and if I had showed up to a house fire and someone said, my kids are in there, even if I had no fire gear, like, I'm going in the building. I mean, unless it's, like, 100%, like, there's no chance. And I might not come back out, but I'm going to go in the building because that's just what you do. And so I'm so perplexed by the fact that they didn't just rush in. And maybe that's not smart. Maybe I would be the first one to die in any sort of thing like that. But I just know you're like, hey, the policy now has changed to, no, we don't wait for a SWAT team. You go in. I was just curious what you thought about that, or would
If you
be like-
have any
Yeah, so
insight on it.
I'll back up a little bit further. That actually changed back in 1999.
Okay, so
After
Columbine.
Columbine, right? So I think everybody can remember the images of the police officers outside of Columbine when the two shooters were inside the school shooting the students. And at the time, the practice was to wait until the SWAT team arrived, and then for the team to go in and make a dynamic entry as a SWAT team. And then, in reviewing that event, they realized that you have police officers who are there that can take action. So you essentially it became like a pairs of two, teams of two that would go in and go to the sound of gunfire and stop the threat. And I think that, and his name escapes me right now, but the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, who provided an interview, I think a week ago today. I think it was Thursday, although it could have been Friday, but I think it was last Thursday night I spent a lot of time watching that interview, and
Was that the one on CNN? Or
well, I didn't watch it on CNN. I think it was like broadcast on a bunch of different.
okay.
I watched it on some
I
streaming
get you.
show, right? So, he's the guy. He had a tan shirt on. He's an older guy, wears glasses. He started out by reading essentially the timeline of events. He went through minute by minute by minute about the motor vehicle accident, the shots that were fired in towards the classroom. Then there was a police officer that was engaged outside, and then the suspect made his way into the building, made his way into room 111 and 112, I think, and that the two rooms are actually connected, and that ultimately the officers made their way into the building, and then 19 officers were staged, for lack of better words, outside of those two rooms while he was inside the room. And he went through that timeline of, when the officers made their way in, when the suspect made his way into the building. The suspect got into the building from a door that was propped open and had been left open by somebody else. He gets into the building, he gets into the classroom, and then the police officers get into the building, right? So he goes through that whole timeline, and then he puts his papers down. It's hard to watch. He puts his papers down, and he starts giving essentially his own commentary on what happened and what didn't happen. And when they opened up to questions and answer, he kind of fell apart, and they asked him, like, well, why did you not do that? And his response was that when they initially went into the building, it was an active shooter situation. And in an active shooter situation, you go in, the responding officers go in immediately, they go to the sound of gunfire, and they stop the threat. However, situations can change. So they can go from an active shooter situation to a barricaded situation where the techniques change, the strategy changes, what we do, and that might be different, right? And so in a barricaded situation, and there's also hostage rescue situations. So there's a number of different types of situations that we would encounter where our technique would be different, right? In a barricaded situation, it becomes an exercise of containment. And then you typically try to negotiate with the person. You typically try to use gas or other measures to get somebody to voluntarily surrender themselves from that situation, typically in a barricade situation. Sometimes it ends up in a gunfight, but sometimes it doesn't have to end up that way. Sometimes you use robots to go in and to sort of assess the situation or whatever else. And so based on the commander on the ground at that time, he believed that had transitioned from an active shooter situation into a barricade situation, and the decision was made not to enter that classroom. Now we know now, and there's still, I don't know, as though I haven't really followed a whole heck of a lot over the last week, so I don't know what's come out over the last week, but we, at least last Thursday when I was watching that press conference, they were talking a lot about 911 calls that were being placed into the dispatch center. And it appeared as though that information wasn't making its way back to the commander on the scene who was making the calls. Folks were calling who were injured, who were scared, who said that, that there's children in here, that they're in serious need of help or whatever, and it didn't seem like that information was getting back to the commander on the ground. So there's obviously a breakdown in communication that has to be addressed there. But at the end of the day, you've got 19 police officers standing outside this room, and I think everybody is looking to point a finger and say, like, well, you should have stormed into that room, and why didn't you do that, and what happened? As we said before I came on the air, I think when you have 19 police officers standing outside of a doorway, yes, you may run into some groupthink where everybody sort of gets into the same mindset, but I have a hard time believing that there's 19 officers out there and not one of them was prepared to, enter the room and face death, if that's what, because ultimately that's what likely is going to happen when you open that door. You're going to face a wall of gunfire, and people are going to get hurt. And I just have a hard time believing that there's 19 people there and not one of them would have the chutzpah to open the door and engage this guy. So there has to be something that we don't know right now. There has to be information that they had that we don't have. And that's why I think sometimes it's hard to pass judgment or to, you know, to make all these declarations when I wasn't there on the ground. Certainly, when you look at it and you say 40 minutes outside, you've got 22 people ultimately who died inside that room, or 21 inside that room. You know, it seems to be an error, but I wasn't there. I don't know. I don't have all the facts. And
but just from what you explained, that the way it's written, the way I've understood it, was like they didn't go in the school for 40 minutes. But from what you just explained, it's they didn't go into the room.
They were in the school. They were in the school.
So, and that would make more sense to go from.
I saw that interview. Yeah. I think they exchanged gunfire with him
outside,
right? But in the hallway too, right or no?
If I recall, they exchanged gunfire outside. He went into the building, and he did come out into the hallway one time. Whether I don't know if gunfire was exchanged when he came out into the hallway, but he went back in, and then there was gunfire that was that they were able to hear inside that room. But based on their belief at the time, he was shooting at the door, you know, which they were standing behind. So I don't know if they had an exchange of gunfire. I can't recall. I don't think that they had a gunfight in the hallway. Okay. I think by the time they got into the school, he was already in the room.
He was already barricaded.
Yeah.
And the rumor was he had body armor. Is that not true?
I don't know.
I didn't know if you knew, because Steve heard that it wasn't true. It was just some rumor that was.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, and the only reason I want to ask is it wasn't to. I hate when people stand back and now I'm going to exactly. I'll second guess every decision you made under fire and all these things. I mean, just the way you explained it was enough to be like, put me at ease. Okay, they didn't literally stand outside of the school for 40 minutes while these kids are getting shot. They went in the school. They stood outside the room. And then, like you said, it switched from an active shooter to more of a barricade situation, which then you're training that way.
I mean, that's what he said. But I got to give that guy credit, because like I actually have goosebumps right now just thinking about it. But like, you know, for a long time, I think, not just police, but everybody, I think it's part of the human condition. When we make a mistake, it's really hard sometimes to say, yeah, we screwed that up. And in this particular case, if you make a mistake and now there's 21 dead people, 19 of whom are fourth graders, it's not easy to stand up in front of the world and say we screwed that up. We could have acted different, and maybe the outcome would have been a little bit different. So I think it took a lot of courage. It probably overdrafted his courage account to stand up there in front of all those people and make that statement. But, you know, if we start, last week we talked about the executive order that President Biden signed about transparency. We've talked about August of 2021 with Governor Sununu signing the LEAC Commission's recommendations. If society wants anything right now, it is a more transparent government. And I hate to use the word because it has become so cliche over the last few years, but realistically, that's what society expects from their government, is that we do not hide things in the mystery, and that we're not opaque with the way that we do our business. And I think when you have a commander who's going to stand there and say, yeah, we didn't make the right call, we screwed that up, that takes some intestinal fortitude. And, you know, so the other side of that is, yeah, okay, we've made the mistake, and now this is how we're going to correct that mistake. You know, those folks in Texas had just gone through active shooter training right before this event happened. So you would think it would be fresh in their mind, and they would be able to sort of lean against those lessons that they had just learned and practiced and stuff like that. So I salute him for his ability to stand up there and take that, you know, withering damage, if you will, because that's tough.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's
not a lot of people would do that.
No,
right?
No, exactly. Most people.
A lot of people would say, "Oh, you know, this isn't our fault," or they would sort of deflect responsibility or whatever. And he took it, and that's probably going to cost him personally a lot, I bet. Not, you know, personally in the sense that, like, when you saw him talk, I mean, he was breaking down. He was unable to, like, that level of emotion from, you know, a leader who's got that much time in the saddle. That's going to live with him forever.
Right.
You know?
I mean, it's a lot to respect, though, too, that, you know, acknowledge mistakes, or even if, I mean, Your
Doesn't
decisions are
make
made.
the families feel any better, but
No,
What's that?
no,
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But it certainly doesn't make them feel any better either when you stand up there and you shed blame,
Right.
and
Yes.
and when everybody
Absolutely.
looking at the situation knows that you screwed up and you're just unwilling to accept the responsibility. I think they're still going to be hurt, they're still going to be broken, and now they're going to also be very, very angry at you because you don't have the courage to say the hard truth, right? And I think that's what integrity is.
Like when you barge into the press conference and make a political statement in front of everybody, like Beto O'Rourke did. That's a pretty low life thing to do.
yeah, well, that's politics.
That's beyond that. I don't know. So
Hey, so before we transition totally away from that topic, I'm going to put out a release. I'm going to put it on our Facebook page. I'll probably actually put out a little media release too. But next Thursday night, 5:30 to 8:30 at the Opera House, I'm putting on a presentation to the community. I've actually got the school to kind of partner with me. I'm the one that's going to deliver it, but I've asked the school if they would be willing to partner with me in this endeavor. And we're going to talk about citizens' response to active shooter events. I think I talked about this a little bit last week, but I've sort of started to finalize the plans. So we are at the Opera House next week. I've got a presentation that I'll deliver. We'll have some Q&A. So,
Me and the school board will not be able to make it.
oh, that's kind of a bummer. Maybe when the school board is out of session, you guys can come on over and.
Yeah, if we have a quick one, yeah, definitely.
what are you talking about? You're the only one who would have showed up anyways.
No. If Chief's putting it on, I'm sure
Yeah, with
that
the
there
school.
would be
Yeah.
participation.
Yeah. So
So we broke that here first. Next Thursday, 5:30.
next 5:30 to 8:30. Yeah.
Making you part of the mass media, Beard Productions.
Yeah.
I don't know how to think about that. No, that's cool. I'm glad.
No,
You got to hedge. You got to
We'll make sure
you got
we
to say,
have
I might be angry about that, but that I could be really happy too. So you got a foot in both camps.
You can just never give it to me full on. It's got to
No,
be
you
a
got to
little
sit
this, a
right,
little that.
sit right on the fence.
You really are.
That way you can.
Politics stuff.
Yeah, you can. No.
No, so next Thursday, 5:30 to 8.
5:30 to 8:30 at the Opera House.
We'll make sure we talk about it all week so that people.
Yeah.
We'll try to get people there. You know?
So I just want to talk about a couple things related to that program. You know, it's not just doom and gloom. We don't just talk about people getting killed. We talk a lot about physiology and psychology and the things that people can experience who can expect to experience if they're under stress. And it's not just under stress for, an active attack or event. It's not just a plane crash, but stress is stress, right? So like,
What causes a breakdown in communication, which causes other problems.
exactly, and like what you can expect to feel and experience when your body transitions to that flight, or freeze response, and we'll talk about a couple of examples in history when we've seen maybe some decision making that was poor or things that were good, or when training when it works for you, and we try to debunk that idea that you're going to rise to the occasion, because that simply does not happen. We fall back on our training, as we talked about last week, and then we'll watch some videos, and there's a couple of videos in there that are powerful and hard to watch, but we all need to watch them. So
mostly for adults then too.
Yeah. When I say powerful, I'm not necessarily talking about like gory.
Right.
I'm talking about like they hurt your soul. Like there's a teacher. I'll give you just a little bit of a teaser, but there's one teacher from Sandy Hook who did an interview with. I cannot believe I can't remember her name. I want to say Barbara Walters, but it's not Barbara Walters. It's Diane Sawyer. And it is, man, it gets you right in the feels every time. Right there. So, yeah, if you're prone to being emotional, bring a tissue, because, yeah.
Well, sometimes
So it's not just for adults. I definitely think that there's value, particularly in having teenagers there. I don't know as though you'd want to have younger children there, just because sitting still for 3 hours listening to me drone on is unpopular, no matter your age, right?
Hey, there's a lot. You got 46 minutes your interviews usually last around there. You got some fans. all over the country.
Oh, all right. In the Lone Star State,
Yeah.
I hope.
As far as Texas.
Yeah, that's all right. Texas is like my new favorite state away from New Hampshire.
It's a great state.
Yeah, it's warm, and I got my fastest marathons in Texas, so that's like my second home now,
Trying to
man.
get Grandma Susie more mad at me.
Yeah, one of my buddies that I went to the FBI Academy with. He's a cop in Houston. It's a good state, man.
Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely.
It ain't the grandest state, but whatever.
So the other thing we were talking about this on the show the other day. I was like, well, we'll just bring up the Chief because maybe Chief can debunk my theory. But
Yeah.
so
Now you're using my words.
yes, so I had said that
Your hypothesis.
women typically don't get tickets and men do, and so and I have like my own.
Yeah, you have your own experiences. At your
Yeah.
so like-
Anecdotal, an N of 1.
No, so like
This is wicked good social science here, guys.
like my ex-wife, and I'm not like I'm 100% serious, has been pulled at least like 200 times. Ex-wife, by the way, and never gotten a ticket.
Is that why she's an ex-wife?
No,
Because she gets stopped a lot.
no. We will not go into that, but
Okay.
no, it's much bigger than that. But anyways, she never got a ticket. Granted, her boobs are always hanging out, and she's all flirty and whatever. But so I had just said, and
She's like, I take offense to that.
I don't know, whatever it is. What is?
That's
So-
your observation. Okay.
Yes. So, but I had said, like, if you get pulled over, don't be a D-bag. Be respectful to the officer. Just answer their questions and be honest. Because, like, anytime I've ever been pulled over, and the only ticket I've ever gotten was from Mike Batista, who Mike's like the nicest guy in the world. I've known Mike forever. And he was nice to me because he's like, well, it could be a $200 ticket, but I'll knock the speed down 2 miles per hour, so it's a $100
Now
ticket.
you're getting Batista in trouble.
No, because that's an officer's discretion. I still got the ticket. But the point is, if you're polite to the officer, you do what you're supposed to, a lot of times you won't get a ticket. They'll warn you about it. But I was just saying that women, and I was like jokingly, Andrew and your wife, like, women don't get tickets. And so, and I was waiting for the chief to be like, well, statistically, and I know you said you didn't have statistics for
Yeah, I
it,
don't
but-
have statistics. I would say, again, anecdotally, that's hogwash. I think the two goals of motor vehicle enforcement are to save lives and to change driving behavior. So they tell us at the police academy, or they used to, back when I was in the police academy, they said that we should have your decision made. You should have your decision made about whether or not you're going to write a ticket before you ever get out of the car. So if we're in Kellyville and I see you coming down the road in your pickup truck and you're going 55 miles an hour, it's posted as a 35 mile an hour zone, and I decide, yeah, he's going to get a ticket. It shouldn't matter whether or not you're friendly to me or you're unfriendly to me. Either you're going to get a ticket or you're going to get a warning based on your conduct and the prevailing conditions. With one limited exception. If the goal really is to change driving behavior, if that's one of the two goals of motor vehicle enforcement, and I get you stopped for going 50 in a 35 mile an hour zone, right? That may not warrant a ticket if, again, all things being equal, the weather's good, the traffic is low, there's nothing really going on, you got a wide shoulder, whatever. Maybe 50 and a 35 is just going to be a warning that day, again, depending on the prevailing conditions. However, when I run your driver's license and I see that you've had 4 other tickets, and then maybe I run you locally and I see that you've had 7 or 8 warnings in the last year for speeding, well, guess what? The warnings aren't working anymore. So maybe now you have to get a ticket because that's the only thing that might change driving behavior is adding points to your license. And, the more points you get, the more likely you're going to get a suspension, the more likely you're going to have to take a safe driving course. And if you continue to acquire points, you might become a habitual offender. And the whole goal with all of that is to get unsafe drivers off the road, right? So with limited exception, we should have our decision made. So it really doesn't matter if you bat your eyelash or if, you're really angry and upset and freaking out and, if you get stopped for going 10 over in that same scenario, but you're totally off the chain, that really shouldn't change the officer's decision about whether or not he gives a ticket. Shouldn't.
See, that's why I'm not a police officer.
I don't necessarily agree with him because I've gotten pulled over and I'm always polite and I always get a ticket.
It's because they don't like you.
I do have that
You have a nice face.
side that works.
You could just tell a story about
But
that.
of course, that is the side that faces the window. But this, like, I have experiences that were like horrible with cops.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was 21, 22, did I tell you the story already?
No.
It was 2:15, right? So all the clubs or bars close at 2 in Houston. I'm in my Explorer. I have a car full of drunk people. I'm the designated driver. I have my old trusty radar detector because this is like 1998.
Yeah.
So I know that there's a cop somewhere around, but also I know that it's 2:15 and there's cops around even without the radar detector.
Right.
So I'm at 10 and 2 because that's what we were taught back when I went to driver's ed. So I'm at 10 and 2, going. I'm pretty sure I was going like 5 miles under the speed limit to make sure.
Well, that's also a
That
clue.
is what gave you away.
Well, I don't know if I was, but I was not speeding. And then he pulled me over. He gave me a field sobriety test with the lights running and everything else because I did have a car full of drunk people, so I'm sure it smelled when I rolled the window down. It smelled. And it was stressful because he left the lights running. He shines the lights in your eyes, and I was like, I didn't do anything wrong, so I'm mad internally. And I'm like, why am I getting pulled over, jackass?
And you don't like to be told what to do.
I don't like to be told what to do, and I'm following the rules.
Oh, the Army was a good choice for you then, huh?
Oh, my brother, I'll tell you, because he's seen I went to some leadership school before, anyway, at one point, and so my brother is a leadership psychologist, and so he knows all the forms that I filled out, and I gave them to him. He's like, how have you been in the regular Army for like 18 years at the time? He was like, right before I took battalion command, he was like, if anything, you should have been in like special ops. You do not like having anybody over you, talking to you, telling you what to do. He was like, you do not have the personality.
Yeah,
to be in the
military
regular
college
Army.
must have been awesome, huh?
I was a rebel without a cause. I was in trouble a lot.
Yeah.
So, see, Chief,
But that's one instance, and the other one.
Did you get arrested?
No. I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Right. So you should be
But I'm
be
pretty sure
happy
he-
that
but
that
I'm-
guy was doing his job, man.
No,
Right.
because I felt like he was trying to set me up because all the tests he had me doing with those lights going, with the flashlights, and I'm like, and I'm mad because I'm doing the right thing, and I'm like, why the hell am I getting pulled over? I wasn't speeding, and then he told me to slow down, so I must not have been going 45, but I wasn't speeding.
Okay.
But he told me to slow down, and I'm like, I want to say, bullshit, larky, man, I wasn't speeding. Another time, my brother and I he was 16, I was 12. He worked at the pro shop. We had this little 9-hole course in our neighborhood. Driving the golf cart down the road, the guy pulls us over right in front of our driveway, puts my brother in the back seat, and this was a sheriff. It wasn't so he was just being mean to us. Everybody drives up and down that road on golf carts. Not everybody, but the people who golfed. And so that was traumatic. So that was when I was 12. Another time, my buddy was doing donuts in the parking lot of the stadium, and I drove off because it was like you could do a cut through to get through the neighborhood if you drove through our high school stadium parking lot. And this guy ended up getting drafted by the Yankees. He was pretty cocky. He was one of those guys. And we just left my buddy's house. And anyway, so when he started doing the donuts, I started to drive away because I was going to West Point. I didn't want to be around that. And so all of a sudden, 2 cop cars come out, and I turned, and I went on to Taco Bell where we were on our way to. And
What'd you get?
probably
Soft Taco Supreme. With the tomatoes and the sour cream.
I always get the Supreme.
Yeah, me too.
So anyway, they never show up to Taco Bell, so we drive back, and they're handcuffed, and they're on the hood of the truck, like handcuffed, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So then we go back to Taco Bell and wait, and then we drive back because it's all kind of close. Taco Bell's in the next town over. My town didn't have a Taco Bell. We're like Newport has more than we have. We have 2 Red Lights and a Dairy Queen. Anyway, I go back.
We only have 2 Red Lights. We don't have Dairy Queen though.
Yeah, but we have Plaza Pizza,
crunchy, crispy chicken.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I drive back, and now they're all in the convenience store parking lot. And so I drive past them. We go to one of the guys who's with them, with that group in the truck. We go to his cousin's house, and he's like, hey, man, the cops are looking for you. And I'm like, really? Like, yeah, you fled the scene of a crime. I was like, I didn't flee. I was like, I left Jeff when he started doing donuts. Anyway, so I drive over to the convenience store. They put me in the back of the car, and they're messing with me. I didn't know it. And I was like,
The police?
oh, yeah. I'm sweating. because my buddy Jared, whose house we left, was a HPD cop. So when we found out that they didn't get him for doing the donuts, they got him because somebody had broken into the school about the time that we were driving through the cut through. And then they called Mr. Cook, and he was like, yeah, they just left my house. They're not robbing anything. So they ended up letting them go once they sorted through all that. Anyway, I was stressed. I was sweating through my clothes because I was like, well, there goes West Point. I'm not going. My parents are going to kill me. I was like, I didn't even want to go home. I was like, I can't believe I'm in the back of this cop car handcuffed. I thought my life was over with. So anyway, I'm sweating just thinking about it.
Yeah, we all have a litany of experiences, both good and bad.
Yeah, my good ones are hanging out here doing the interviews with you because you're humanizing police officers around the world.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me like that, man? It was stressful. I'm stressing out about it now. Now my mom and dad I don't know if they've ever heard that story, but now they're going to be like, what the heck were you doing?
Yeah, they know now. You were out blowing donuts in the
I
parking
was
lot.
not. I was driving safely through the cut-through.
Well, Morris, he was out there blowing donuts. He just changed that part of the story.
You can ask John Paul, Jared, Tree, Jeff.
How much you pay him?
Nothing.
Anything else new and exciting going on? Graduations next week?
Yeah, graduation's next
Steve's a
week.
criminal?
I'm not.
Did I say next week?
Yeah.
That's the 16th.
Oh, okay. For your
Oh, that's much better. I say, why would a school want to partner with
Yeah,
you
no.
on that?
It's the 16th. That actually is a lot better because I've been thinking,
Then
it's
we can
next
go.
week. It's next week. It's next
Yeah,
week.
so
Yes.
we'll be there.
It's the 16th. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're busy. You got a lot going on. It's okay.
Yeah, we've got.
I mean, they should correct it before we had all kinds of people show up.
Yeah, thanks. So we broke it here and changed it here. So
Perfect. So the 16th, Thursday, 5:30 there. 8:30.
correct. Yeah, graduation next week. Yeah. So
That's about it, huh?
no, I mean, there's a lot happening. But
Anything
there's
we need
always
to be on the lookout?
there's
as a
always
community?
stuff happening. There's always stuff going on. I just think that everybody needs to keep doing what they're doing. Look out for their neighbor, be a good person.
Did they ever figure out this?
Lift up the
Treat people
downtrodden.
with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
Did they ever figure out the whole, what the hell was it? Black scorpion, bad fentanyl thing?
Oh, yeah.
Remember the Claremont police put out a thing?
They're still working on it.
Yeah, still an issue.
They're still working on
I
the
do have a
case.
question, though.
Go.
I'm not going to criticize Chief Chase, but the release was like, there's a bad case of fentanyl. Isn't all fentanyl bad? I mean, unless it's prescribed by a doctor.
Yeah.
No, I thought that was like,
Yeah.
we kind of joked about it. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just a serious thing. But the thing the biggest point for us to bring it up on the show last week was that to like warn kids, like, yeah, just because you're smoking
weed.
Yes, that's the point. Like, because I don't think any kids are out there. Well, I hope, and I'm sure I'm probably wrong, but the majority of kids aren't out with heroin and stuff.
We hope not.
Right. But, if they have marijuana and they think it's safe, you gotta like not think that no more. Like,
Yeah, and it's not just marijuana. It's also like, I mean, we've seen
pills.
the pills, right? They've had these pills that it's just not as advertised, and you've seen a much more concerted push to get public service announcements out there about from physicians and from people in not just the medical community but the legal community, and everybody saying like, if it is not in a prescription bottle with your name on it, be very, very careful. Don't take it because you just don't know what you're getting nowadays.
right.
So
Yeah, we talked earlier yesterday or the day before about New York City. They're
saying don't be ashamed, be proud that you're doing your drugs responsibly, something like that. It's enabling.
teaching you how to do them safely, do small doses.
Start off in small
Yes.
doses and work your way up. Like
Test
on
your
the
drugs with their
subway
free
sign.
strips. Yeah, like what message is that?
We
sending?
we understand like, the psychology because
Yeah.
you're not going to be able to stop somebody today. Like, hey, that's bad. Don't do it because
Right.
their body needs it, right? Like they just physically can't
Right.
not do it. But it's also the wording of it was kind of poorly. It's okay that you're doing it. Just do it safely. Like,
Right.
That's how it's not okay that you're doing it. Like number one, you should get help.
I think that's part of the problem with like harm reduction methods. Like if some of the harm reduction methods try that again. Some of the harm reduction methods that people are most familiar with are needle exchange or like safe injection sites. And we don't have a whole heck of a lot of safe injection sites in America that I'm aware of, but I know that in some countries, some European countries, I think Denmark, became sort of known for having safe injection sites. And basically you can go to these places and you can shoot up, and if you OD, there's somebody there that can Narcan you. They can, give you clean needles while you're there. I think some of the problem that we have as people with harm reduction methods are that, like, you're almost giving tacit consent, and in some cases you're giving actual consent to do drugs. The other side of that argument, obviously, is that they're going to do drugs anyway, so why don't we make sure that they're doing drugs responsibly? I spoke to a guy who was a rescue medic in New York City and Manhattan, and they deal with his particular truck. They deal with a lot of the same people all the time, and they come to know some of the addicts and some of the people who live on the street. And he was saying that they will tell some of the addicts, if you're going to boot up, do it in a public place, which again, it's a mixed bag, because if you're doing it in a public place, like, what's the optic of that? Like, if somebody's driving down North Main Street in Newport and they see somebody sitting on a bench in our common shooting heroin, like, that's a terrible image that we're sending out there. The other side of that, though, is that when you're in the public and you overdose, if you overdose, there's somebody there to help you.
But for your buddy to tell him that,
it's not my buddy,
or this guy,
it's a rescue medic,
right, that deals with this same person all the time. Yeah, that's a different message than a broad-based message of just go do it safely, and don't be ashamed, and like they're sending a message like drugs are okay now, like and at least in my opinion, like no accountability.
Don't be ashamed.
Yes,
be proud.
Don't be ashamed of it.
Responsibly, like that's kind of a.
I think that so we're all about the same age. I mean, he's substantially older than we are, right?
Yes.
He's on the verge of Social Security.
Yes.
But we can think like you may not remember it well, but you remember the 1980s and like the message, just say no to drugs, and the campaigns to stop like marijuana being in society. And like, I got to tell you, man, it's not just that type of messaging. Just as a general rule, our messaging about drugs has become very, 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 very relaxed over the last 20 years or something like that. Right. We're legalizing marijuana. We're doing we have harm reduction methods everywhere. We have billboards like you've described. I mean, just the messaging about drugs in general has changed over the last long time.
It's like some dystopian Hollywood movie.
It's weird. Yeah. It's weird.
But your job's even harder because you have people above your head pushing for harm-free zones, blah, blah, blah. But your job is the same. You have laws, and you're supposed to follow laws. And if you don't, these are the consequences. And
I think that's an important distinction, which is like, I'm a police officer. And at the end of the day, our role in society is to enforce the law. I recognize that, like, we are, the authoritative arm of society, right? But at the end of the day, our role in society is to enforce the law. And so when people say to police officers, well, what are you going to do to help curb the opioid epidemic? Or what are you going to do to help stop this problem? Well, what we are going to do is we're going to enforce the law, period. It doesn't mean that we can't do other things. It doesn't mean that when we encounter somebody that's in a situation that doesn't allow us to enforce the law, that we can't sort of try to guide them into something else. And you'll hear this sort of cliche statement all the time, well, we can't arrest our way out of it. Sure, but again, let's remember what our function in society is, and it's to enforce the law. And that's what we're here to do, you know what I mean? We have to point people in the direction of treatment and services, and we want to make sure that, I am a believer that every human life is precious, and that, like, I am not the person to say whether or not, you should live or die today because you've overdosed again. That's not my call to make. That's somebody else's call. It's much bigger than me, and I ain't making that call, right? So if I have the ability to save your life, I'm going to do that. But at the end of the day, our role in society, I feel, is to enforce the law.
Right. That's Well, yeah. I'll let politicians do their thing, and you'll continue to do your thing.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit, right? Like, when you talk about discipline, when you talk about, like, accountability across all ages, whether it be with children or whatever else, fundamentally, I'm challenged by this idea that like we're like becoming a lot more flexible on a lot of this stuff that really contributes to a lot more problems. When we think about drug crime, we know that drug crime also relates to violent crime. We know it relates to property crime. We know that it relates to theft. We know that, drug crime and drug addiction is so inextricably linked to the rest of that stuff that, like, there is value in us intervening in the criminal justice system in drug crime because, like, we can prevent a lot of other crimes from happening, right?
Right.
Like, just think about like catalytic converter thefts. Like oftentimes those things are. I use that as an example, and I'm not saying every time it's because of drugs, but or shoplifting or whatever else. It's because you have addicted people that are trying to get a little bit of money so that they can get a little bit of fix, so that they aren't sick. And yes, maybe we can agree that it's a sickness. We can agree that they have an illness that they need to get help for. But like we have all this crime that's going on. So what, do we just ignore all that too?
No.
Hopefully not.
The answer would be no from this show.
Yeah, that's my answer too. No,
Yes, right. Exactly. Like you have to have accountability, and that seems like an issue that's definitely been.
It's a societal thing.
It is.
It starts with parents teaching their kids right and wrong, being responsible.
Not being their friend.
Yeah.
You're their parent. You're not their friend. And yes, this can be uncomfortable. And I'm going to set some rules, and you may break them, and you may hate me for a little bit. But at the end of the day, I'm not raising a child. I'm raising an adult.
I want you home safe at the end of the night, not dead in a ditch somewhere or something. Because that's why there's rules, right? Like,
right.
I mean, none of us like rules per se, but
Nothing good
I do.
happens
I
after
like
midnight.
rules.
yeah,
Yeah, I like pushing the envelope, but I like rules.
right. But you know the limits, and I feel like we're just totally changing where our kids, like, well.
I do. I actually think that all people like rules. I think it's like they like to have boundaries. As human beings, I think that we like boundaries and we want to know where they are. And again, now the question can become like, how tight do you want that boundary, right? Like, do you want your fence right up close to your house, or do you want to give a little bit of room? I do think that we have to let our kids make mistakes, particularly when they're at an age where like they can fail, and like we're still there to sort of catch them before they actually like crack their yolk. They've got to be able to make those mistakes when they're young, but yeah, they got to have boundaries, man. That's my humble opinion.
I agree. All right, Chief.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you again for coming in.
Thanks for having me. 16th, not
June
next
16th.
week.
June 16th.
5:30, 8:30 at the Opera House.
We'll be there.
Or be square.
Smiling faces. All right, for the Tim and Steve show, we'll see you tomorrow.